What up, everybody? Good morning and a very happy Monday to you all. Hopefully, you all had a fantastic 4th of July weekend, and maybe you're ready to hit up a brand new work week here. Appreciate you tuning in however you're tuning in from. If it's on those radio dials, got a couple of them 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also available to stream online at sportstalk1051.com. Got your smart devices like your Alexa. Just say, Yo, Alexa, play WAYY. I got the app. Download it. Take it on the go. Video streams also up and rolling here this morning. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, all the usuals there. So appreciate you making us a part of your starts. What do we got on our game plan for us this morning? We need to catch up on quite a bit from the past few days. Brewers picking up a win yesterday to win the series against the Marlins, but maybe that wasn't the biggest thing. It was the return of Brandon Woodruff. Woody back on the mound, and he was pretty darn awesome. Going 6 innings, giving up just 2 hits, 1 earned run, 8 strikeouts, also picking up the win, getting credited with the win. So finally, the return of Brandon Woodruff. And the other thing, too, dude didn't issue a single walk. I mean, he looked like vintage Brandon Woodruff yesterday. I mean, tip of the cap to him. We would been waiting all year long. He's been waiting all year long. The Brewers have been waiting all year long for him to be back out on the mound. A couple of setbacks that had nothing to do with his shoulder, but first it was going to be May, then it was going to be something else. May, then maybe June, and finally, early part of July, we get Brandon Woodruff. And Brandon Woodruff looked pretty dang good yesterday. So, Brewers now at 50 wins on the season, 50 and 40 overall, 90 games into this thing, and now we've got a heck of a matchup coming up for the Brewers. Quite the I call it a benchmark series going up against the Dodgers in Milwaukee starting tonight. 3 games against the Dodgers starting tonight. You get Freddie Peralta, who was named as the All-Star rep for the Brewers, named to the All-Star team yesterday. Probably no big surprise, but he will get the start tonight. You've got Jacob Mizorowski going for the Crew tomorrow, and then Quintana slated to get the start on Wednesday. So the Brewers throwing 3 of their top pitchers right now, going up against the Dodgers in this series. So plenty to, and then we got to throw in Rhys Hoskins is going to be out for a while. Grade 2 sprain in his thumb. So, we got the trade deadline coming up in just a few weeks here at the end of the month. And then you got Garrett Mitchell, who's underwent surgery for his shoulder. There's a potential he could be back at the end of the year. But, I mean, with the trade deadline coming up and now a team sitting there at that second wild card spot, is it going to be a first base edition? Could it be another outfielder edition? I would, if it were me, if I was Matt Arnold, I would be scouring some of the available players for both those positions. But nonetheless, plenty to catch up on when it comes to the Brewers. But definitely a big series coming up starting tonight. First pitch is going to be at 6:40, taking on the Dodgers in Milwaukee. Got the Dodgers, then 3 games against the Nationals for this weekend. Then it's the All-Star break. So, speaking of plenty to catch up on, the Bucks. I mean, wow. I know you probably talked about it to death right now, and I know it's a little bit few days old and such, but wow. Go back to last week. Miles Turner in, Dame out. I haven't had a chance to catch up with all of you with that. So, what's your thoughts on the move? I mean, Miles Turner. I feel like Miles Turner was a guy, at least for me, for the last couple of years, few years, you're like, man, I wouldn't mind him in Milwaukee. Maybe try to trade for him, try to get him and such. And it's like finally got him. But then it was Dame's out. So Miles Turner in, Dame out. And then the Bucks bringing back quite a few of their role players. I mean, just last night, Rollins coming back on a 3-year deal. Ryan Rollins coming back to the Bucks. Bobby Portis officially coming back to the Bucks. Kevin Porter Jr. coming back. Prince come back. Pat Connaughton shipped out. So, what do you make of what the Brewers have done so far, or not the Brewers, the Bucks? Excuse me. What the Bucks have done so far in this offseason? What do you make of it? What was your reaction like when you heard about the Miles Turner and Dame's issue? I mean, it almost kind of reminded me a little bit, maybe not to the full extent because there was a little bit of history with him, but it kind of reminded me a little bit of like when the Packers signed Josh Jacobs. It's like, oh wow, Josh Jacobs, okay, pairing him up with Aaron Jones, wow, and then Aaron Jones is like gone. Obviously a little different than that because probably wasn't going to play at least a huge chunk of the season and such, and Giannis still there with the Bucks and that, but it kind of was like, it's like, dang, that only lasted for maybe a minute or two with that. So I was happy to see Miles Turner, them coming in. Dame, definitely it's like, oh man, but I don't quite get the talking heads from the little bit that I was, paying attention to last week and following along, and I get it. It's talking heads in the national media, kind of critical of the move, because how does this help the Bucks? And when you move on from Dame, but I'm like, at the same time, we know Dame wasn't probably going to play a huge chunk of this season, right? So I mean, you're making a move to bring in Miles Turner to help out Giannis now, like now, not given. I don't get the impression of a gap year anymore. I mean, I feel like this is a move to bring in Miles Turner to help out Giannis and the team now, to make Giannis happy now, and not like just throwing away a year. Because I mean, Dame, again, we don't know how the recovery is going to go with his Achilles injury and such, and you kind of get the sense, the more you kind of read and listen and maybe just think back, was it a good fit with Dame in Milwaukee? Was it a good fit in terms of like, it seems like at times some of the stuff that you've heard and maybe listened to, maybe he didn't really fully embrace his role in Milwaukee. Not saying he hated Milwaukee in that, but maybe it just wasn't a good fit. And then I'm sure there's going to be the people to point out that wasn't a good trade for Drew Holiday. They should have kept Drew Holiday and such, which, can make an argument for that. No doubt about it. But I gotta, I think I gotta tip a cap again to John Horst, because he found a way to make a big move in free agency. Did come at the cost of moving on from Damian Lillard, but I think right now it helps this Bucks team right now. And I think if you're the Bucks, you're still trying to compete right now to win championships. So I think maybe they're still a player away. Now, I don't know if that means Bradley Beal, who potentially could be available. Do you bring him in over to Milwaukee to try to pair him up with Giannis and Miles Turner, maybe trying to bring in another scorer and such? We'll see. I'm sure he's going to have plenty of suitors when and if he does become available on the market. But where it stands right now with Turner, Giannis, Bobby Portis, Kevin Porter Jr., Gary Trent, the junior they're bringing back. How do you and factoring in this Eastern Conference too, that no Tatum with the Celtics, and the Celtics have made moves trading Drew Holiday and Porzingis. We know the Pacers, now they've lost Turner along with Halliburton being done for probably the whole season. Is this a team that is a top 4 in the Eastern Conference with the moves that they have made? So I'm genuinely curious to get your thoughts, Bucks fans. So hit me up with a quick text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line at 715-830-1912. Hit me up on the socials at DANKSPR on the X, Facebook.com/Kasper Sports, or Instagram, Dan Kasper Sports too. So, and believe it or not, calendar tells us we're just a couple weeks away from Packers training camp. Believe it or not, we are just July 23rd. July 23rd. So 2 weeks from Wednesday, camp opens up. Can you believe that? I can't. I mean, when camp opens up, when training camp opens up, that to me is like, oh boy, summer's coming to an end. That's when I kind of transition a little bit here. But we're just a couple of weeks away from Packers training camp. So if we just count the weekdays, not the weekends, we're not here. About 13 weekdays away, we're going to do a top 13 storyline countdown to training camp. So we'll top storyline, things to watch, players to watch, that sort of stuff, training camp battles, preseason watch list. We're throwing it all together, and we're going to highlight one storyline each day, each weekday, leading up to Packers training camp, the beginning of Packers training camp, which is, again, just a couple dang weeks away. So we'll hit that up coming up a little bit later on, too. We've got I'm not saying, but I'm just saying best ones. We'll read on the air, so fill in the blanks. I'm not saying blank, but I'm just saying blank. And then we'll play a little crystal ball. So plenty to get to here this morning on this Monday morning. Let's jump right into it. Brewers fans, I want to hear from you. Bucks fans, your reaction, your thoughts from the plethora of moves from the last week, last few days or so. Let me know. All right. I want to get your analysis. Let's take our first break, and then we'll get things rocking and rolling. Got the lead off coming up after these quick words. We are just a few weeks away from the fifth annual Kasper Classic, coming to you from Lake Hallie Golf Course on Friday, August 1st, and we're down to single digits for teams available. A big thanks to all of you who have signed up your two-person team to participate for your chance to win a title belt. It's got some sweet, bigger title belts this year. And I'm just saying, I went golfing this past weekend. If I play like that, ain't nobody taking that title belt away from me. So, yeah, a little humble brag there. But time is running out to get your two-person team signed up for the fifth annual Kasper Classic. Just head to sportstalk1051.com to sign up now. A big thanks to our partners this year, Lake Hallie Golf, Park Ridge Distributing. Can't do it without the fine folks from Park Ridge Distributing. Edward Jones, financial advisor, Kelsey Nikolai, title belt sponsors, Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire, VFW Post 305, Myron Construction, Do Dodge Inn, AJM Automotive Services, Hy-Vee in Eau Claire, Economy Furniture, Muldoon's Menswear, Home Oasis, and Service Master Chippewa Valley. Special shout out to Chippewa River Industries, Spectrum Industries. They're donating some prizes for the raffle. Big thanks to them, along with Economy Furniture, also donating for our raffle. So big thanks to everybody who has done that, because we want to knock it out of the park this year with our raffle prizes. So believe it or not, we're just a few short weeks away, less than a month to go for the Kasper Classic. And if you want to get your two-person team in now, and why wouldn't you, better head on over to sportstalk1051.com and sign up. Make me feel better, and let's sell this thing out for the fifth straight year. If you already got your team in, tell some friends to get their team in too. It's a fun event. It's a fun tournament and such. So every year, I'm curious to see what the winning score is going to be like this year. I'm really curious, because every year when we announce what the winning score is, everybody's like, "Really?" They were like one shot off, maybe just a couple shots back. A lot of people, I would say, 95% of the teams that sign up are like within contention right away. Probably even higher than that. I might be shortchanging that a little bit. So, all right, let's get things going here this morning, though, shall we? Because we've got a lot to catch up on from the last few days, and we're going to try to catch. We will. I'm not going to say we're going to try. We will catch up and talk a little green and gold, some Brewers, and some Bucks and such. And as always, don't forget to send over your "I'm not saying, but I'm just saying." So, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. What fill in the blanks, send those on over. Sorry, I got sidetracked there. Send those on over. Best ones I'll say on the air. So, all right, let's talk some Bucks to open it up here this morning, shall we? Let's do a little Bucks to chat it up here. If you're a Bucks fan, I'm curious to get your reaction from the plethora of moves that the Bucks have made in the last week, last few days, and such. Let's recap it. Bobby Portis, back. Kevin Porter Jr., back. Prince, back. Gary Trent Jr., back. Jericho Sims, back. They also added Gary Harris and Miles Turner. They've lost Brooke Lopez, Pat Connaughton, Livingston, and, of course, Damian Lillard. And then last night, they brought back Ryan Rollins. So a lot of their role players coming back for the for the Brewers, or for God. See, I always say Brewers now. See, that's what I can't go back on vacation for doing that. A lot of role players back for the Bucks. Maybe not a ton of star players, but they're bringing back a lot of their role players from last year. But, of course, the one star player is Miles Turner. Miles Turner in for Damian Lillard. What are your thoughts of that exchange? What are your thoughts of kind of that swap out. Essentially, it is a swap out, right? I mean, you're moving on from Dame. You're still taking a cap hit for the next few years. You're stretching it out, but you're bringing in a player that could play right now. I think that's the biggest key because all offseason, when it came to the Bucks, we kept hearing about gap year. That the Bucks are going to approach Giannis about a gap year. They're going to try to sell him on a gap year sort of thing. And, that's kind of what we heard, that they can't do a whole lot because they don't have a whole lot available in cap space. So, I mean, the moves are going to be pretty darn limited. They can't bring in, another star player, if you will, or however you want to term that. They can't do that. So, what does John Horst do? He finds a path, finds a creative path to bring in Miles Turner, a guy that I think has been mentioned as maybe a possible target for Bucks fans over the last, I don't know, few years. A big that can run the floor, kind of more of a typical big in today's NBA. And for some reports out there too, it was Giannis. There was some reports out there that Giannis was maybe kind of doing a little recruiting. And I think this is a thing. I don't think Miles Turner signs with the Bucks if he doesn't know Giannis is staying. That's just me. But I would think if I'm Miles Turner, do I sign with the Bucks without maybe some reassurance from Giannis? I don't know. I feel like there had to have been some sort of communication. Now, I know there's been some differing reports on whether Giannis knew about the Dame situation, whether he knew ahead of time that he was going to be released, whether he didn't know. There's been some differing rumors surrounding that. But I got to imagine at least Turner and Giannis, I mean, again, some reports said Giannis was a part of the recruiting pitch for Turner. I have to imagine Turner got some sort of reassurance that Giannis was definitely going to be there for this upcoming season, maybe for the next couple of years. And I know there's some talks about maybe we won't, get a new contract for Giannis until August is some of the rumors being floated out there right now. But the thing I struggle, and I know there's been a lot of national talking heads criticizing what the Bucks have done, criticizing moving on from Dame, releasing Dame, and then essentially being, strapped with that contract for the next few years, and then bringing in Miles Turner. The thing is, I feel like whatever the Bucks would have done, it would have been criticized by the national media. If they didn't make a Miles Turner move and essentially they just brought in everybody that they already did, like they're running it back with a lot of their guys, you would have the talking heads out there saying, Bucks didn't do enough to help out Giannis for this year. Giannis should request a trade, demand a trade right now because the Bucks didn't do anything to help him out this year. So the Bucks, though, did something to help out Giannis this year. And what happens? They still get thrown under the bus, ridiculed for the moves that they made, bringing in Turner and moving on from Dame. A move that helps Giannis and the Bucks this year. I like Dame. Dame is one of my favorite players from the last last decade. Okay. But I also want to be competitive this year. I was not in favor of a whole gap year. I understood the thought process if it actually was an idea out there. I understood it, but at the same time, Giannis ain't getting any younger. Okay, Giannis is still playing at an incredibly high level for somebody who's 30 and will be 31 this year. You want to take advantage of the window you have with Giannis. That should be priority number one. That should be your ultimate goal in this whole thing. If you've got a guy like Giannis on your team, and especially with a franchise that's not a Lakers or Boston where you kind of reset after a year, after a couple years, or whatever. When you've got a Giannis on your team who is still playing at an incredibly high level, finishing top 3 in the MVP this year, and arguably probably maybe had one of his best seasons statistically ever, you should always be in a win now mode. And I give credit to John Orst. I tip my cap to him for finding out a way to still be competitive this year, to still compete and still be a playoff team, a top team in the Eastern Conference, finding a way to bring in a player that can help now. Now, I don't know if Miles Turner is going to come in and average 25, 27 points per game, whatever it is, and 15 rebounds. I don't know. We don't know ultimately if the Miles Turner move is going to work, but I got to give Horst credit because he is trying to do something to win in the now. To win in the now. And for the last like year or so, probably even the last couple seasons, we've talked about a big, getting younger at that big position, getting somebody who can, stretch it out a little bit on the defensive side. Brook Lopez was a fantastic player and deserves all the thanks from Bucks fans for over the years. But I think he has hit he's a limited player now at this stage in his career. He's a good, very good interior defender. He can shoot from the outside. But you play up against those teams that want to run and want to stretch it out. That's his weakness, and teams were exposing that. They were exposing that. It was time to move on. It was time to make a change. And while, it looks bad, the optics of it looks bad, the loyalty aspect of it, right? I mean, you hear about loyalty and I get it from a perspective where players and people were critical of the Bucks because they didn't show any loyalty. But at the same time, how many times have we heard from a player say, "I want out," or demands a trade? There's no loyalty in sports. I don't care. There's very few examples of that. Right now, Giannis is probably the best example of somebody who's loyal. And right now, I would say the Bucks are trying to be loyal to him by still building and being competitive and remaining competitive and such. But really, how many? I mean, every year in a sport, we hear so-and-so is demanding a trade. So-and-so's not happy. So-and-so wants out. There's no loyalty in sports. And once you do have one of those people or teams, it's incredibly rare. Ultimately, it's a business. But while it was a shocker, like I didn't expect the Bucks to actually do what they did in releasing Damian Lillard. I did not expect that to happen. I gotta say I like the move because I think it makes the Bucks a top 4 team in the Eastern Conference for this season. We'll see if Cleveland can do what they did last year. If the Knicks, I mean, it's kind of joking about it at the beginning of the process when I said, watch, they're going to hire Mike Brown because they're going to run out of options. And lo and behold, they hire Mike Brown as their head coach. We'll see how that all kind of plays out. But you throw the Bucks in there now, too, with a depleted Pacers team with Tyrese with the injury. Now no Miles Turner. The Celtics are going through a transition. They're not going to have Tatum. I feel like they're going to be down this year. You look at the Eastern Conference, are the Bucks, Orlando made some moves. Can they make that jump into a top 4? I think the Bucks are right there. When you throw in Miles Turner, Giannis, kind of forget about Kyle Kuzma. I think this is a big year for Kyle Kuzma to really he's got to elevate his game there too. I would argue that he's got to take a step up this year. And while I know a Gary Trent Jr. and maybe a Kevin Porter Jr. backcourt doesn't like get everybody really excited, they showed glimpses last year. Gary Trent Jr., especially down the stretch. They've got some nice role players. Bobby Portis coming off the bench. This is a team, to me, that can be in the top four. The biggest question mark I still have, though, about this team is do they have the right head coach in place? Because I don't think they do. And I hope Doc Rivers proves me wrong. That's the main thing for me. It's the main thing for me is I don't know if I can trust Doc Rivers being the man in charge, being the head coach of this ball club. I hope, by all hope, that he proves the rest of us naysayers wrong this upcoming season. But that, to me, right now is the biggest question mark. Is he the right guy to be the head coach for this team? I don't know. Right now, I have my doubts, but we'll see. But from a player standpoint, I like the move. I was always in favor of Miles Turner from the last few years. Whenever we talked about trade deadline deals or potential free agents, I was like, oh, yeah, Miles Turner. Even this year, I'm like, oh, man, if somehow they can get Miles Turner. And lo and behold, they did. They got him. And they took away a player from their rival, which is an added extra bonus to this thing. They've got some athleticism. They've got some height. And to quote Jay Billis, they've got some insane wingspan from their wings and their big man, Turner, Giannis, and Kuzma. It's going to be up to those three guys. But also, Kevin Porter Jr., if he is in fact going to be the starting point guard, or if it's a Rollins, one of those two guys, those two guys need to take it up another step this year. We saw a lot of good stuff from Kevin Porter Jr. this year, but we need a little bit more. Rollins too. If those are going to be the top 2 point guards on this team, those two need to elevate their games. It is such a guard-dominant league that they have got to take it up just a little bit more. But overall, I like what the Bucks have done. To be honest, they've done more than I thought that they were going to be able to do. They did more than I think a lot of people thought they were going to be able to do. I don't think anybody had it on their bingo card that they were going to acquire somebody like Miles Turner in the offseason. Nobody had that. But in the same breath, nobody probably had it on their bingo card that they were going to release Damian Lillard. But I think when you look back at it, was it a good fit? Was Dame a good fit in Milwaukee? I felt like we missed out on a lot of potential with Dame in Milwaukee. We missed out on obviously some deep playoff runs with him, whether it was due to injuries with him or Giannis. It just, whenever it got to the postseason, both those guys could not be on the court at the same time. And I felt like, when Dame was first acquired, what was one of the things we kept hearing about? Oh, pick and roll. We're going to see a lot of that. And we saw it at times, but not a lot. I mean, we saw more of that when Middleton was in the lineup, for crying out loud. Middleton and Giannis had that connection more than Dame and Giannis had that connection, it felt like. And that was just probably from years of playing together. But this was a Bucks team, too, that we knew was pretty old. They were getting long in the tooth. They got a little bit younger. Maybe a little bit quicker. Maybe a team that can run a little bit more, too. And getting out in transition. So while it stinks to see a guy like Dame go, and honestly, if Dame doesn't get hurt, he's probably still in the Bucks. But overall, this was a move to help the Bucks in the now. I don't want to hear any more about a gap year. There shouldn't be any more talk about a gap year. There's none of that. Nothing like that. And I think if you're a Bucks fan, you do have to kind of appreciate a general manager in John Horst. While not every move has been good, Not every move has worked out. Not saying he is a perfect general manager, but at least he has been a general manager over the years that has taken risks, has taken chances. Some of them haven't worked out, some have, but he's trying. He's trying to put a competitive team out there, a team that can compete for championships as long as Giannis is in that lineup. He has done that. Again, has every move that he has made, has it worked? Has it been popular? No, it hasn't. But you can't fault him for at least trying. I mean, look at it from a Brewers perspective, for crying out loud. How many years have we gone on about, please make a move? Just make a move. Try to make a move. Even from a Packers sense for the longest time. Make a move in free agency. Do this. Bucks have done that. And while we may be frustrated at some of the moves, they've tried. They've done that. Horst has done that. I like the move to bring in Turner because you get a big, you get a big that could stretch it, run in transition, play perimeter defense, shoot from the outside. But and you got a little younger there too. But it means you're still trying to be going for a championship this year with Giannis in that lineup. There is no more talk of a gap here. There's no more talk about what is this team going to look like with no Dame. All right, let's take a quick break here. We'll wrap up the first hour coming up after these quick words. When you need glass or mirror work done right, go to Post Glass and Mirror in Chippewa Falls. They handle everything from auto glass repairs to custom mirrors for your home or your business. Their team is professional, reliable, and gets the job done quickly without cutting corners. Plus, they stand behind their work. If you want quality glass and mirror service you can count on, check out Post Glass and Mirror in Chippewa Falls. We put up a new Post Glass and Mirror 715 Speaks poll question yesterday, asking Bucks fans what they thought about the moves, if they support it, if they liked what the Bucks have done with some of their moves, and about 80% of Bucks fans said yes, they do. That they like the moves that the Bucks have made in the past week plus. So there you have it. There you have it. C-Bomb saying, I'm not saying El Capitano can't take vacation days. I'm just saying it's some BS when you're gone for a whole week. You might be the only one that says that, C-Bomb. I'm sure there's plenty of people that are annoyed that I'm back on. So, but appreciate that. Appreciate that. Coming up next hour, we're going to talk a little, we'll talk a little more. Oh, we'll get back some Bucks talk a little bit later on, but I want to hear from you if you haven't texted in or you haven't chimed in. I know we got Bucks fans out there, but the moves that the Bucks have made from the past week or plus. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Your thoughts. Give me your analysis on it. First time I've gotten to chat with you about it, so I want to hear from you. We'll get to some Brewers talk as well as we get sets for a big series against the Dodgers starting tonight. I call it a benchmark series, a good test, if you will, with this Brewers team that's currently holding on to that second wild card spot, a couple games back from the Cubs for first in the division. It's set up pitching wise. Peralta, Mizorowski, Quintana. But I like to call it a benchmark series. 90 games into this thing, going up against the Dodgers team. We know that lineup. It's in Milwaukee. How is this Brewers team going to look going up against them, especially since it's right before the All-Star break, too? Brandon Woodruff coming back yesterday. I don't know what the expectation was for Brandon Woodruff. You know, I want to go like 6 innings and not give up a hit or whatever it was. But I mean, I know he said after the game, honestly, I had no expectations. I had none at all. But to go 6 innings, to give up 1 earned run, 8 strikeouts, not have a walk, 2 hits. One of them was that home run. I got to imagine that had to surpass a ton of expectations for a lot of people. I'll raise my hand. I thought, okay, if you can maybe get to 5, couple earned runs, there's got to be some jitters. There's got to be some butterflies. You know, the emotions going through there. I'll raise my hand like, okay, yeah, I thought that would, kind of be the expect for him to have 8 Ks and no walks. I always look at the walks when it comes to pitchers, but to have no walks for a guy coming back to the mound for the first time since 2023, I thought that was fantastic. In fact, fun nugget, this whole game, like Cabrera over there for Miami, who pitched really well too. He went 7 innings and 2 earned runs. No walks issued by either team. There's no free base runners in this game. In this game yesterday against the Marlins. None. I mean, you want to talk about some solid pitching, there you have it. But back to Woodruff, boy, just an awesome story. To have that injury in 2023 right before the postseason. And, not to go down that path and think about what could have been, what if, and that. But, I mean, to have that injury right before the postseason, entering a postseason with, I think, some high expectations. And really with that type of injury, not knowing how he would come back as a pitcher, it was a very serious injury. And then a couple hiccups in his attempt to come back this year, ankle injury, getting hit with a ball, and then going out there and pitching the way he did was fantastic. So I'll hit that up and talk some more Freddie Peralta. Freddie Peralta being named as the Brewers All-Star yesterday, which probably isn't a big surprise. I know we kind of talked about it off and on, who would be the Brewers representative for the All-Star game, and I think we kind of all knew it was probably going to be Freddie Peralta, but I'll still say it. Sal Frelick, I think, deserves it, but then you look at the outfielders, and Juan Soto doesn't even get in the National League. It was going to be a very, very, very tough hill for Sal Frelick to get in there. Yelich maybe making a little bit of run with his home runs coming up there, but I don't think it's a big surprise that right now there's just one Brewer representative in the All-Star game. So, but we'll talk some Brewers, and I want to throw out a question to you Brewers fans. What if you view this series with the Dodgers as kind of like a test series, a benchmark series, or whatever you have it, outside of the wins, because we want to obviously see Brewers win the series and such. What's the main thing that you're going to be watching for in this series with the Dodgers? Is it just to see if they're competitive? Because if the Brewers do get to the postseason, they're probably going to have to play a team like the Dodgers or look at the National League, whether it's the Phillies or the Mets. We've seen the Brewers now, sweep the Phillies. We've seen them drop a series against the Mets, had opportunities in that series. We've seen them lose a series against the Padres. Kind of split with the Cubs in their latest series. So, we've kind of gotten some previews, maybe some benchmarks and such. But when it comes to this Dodgers series, what's outside of the wins? What's something that you're going to be paying attention to the most? Is it the Brewers pitching staff, their top three as of right now, how they line up against that Dodgers lineup? Maybe it's something like how the Brewers, kind of handle going up against the big dogs, if you will, of the Dodgers. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then, believe it or not, we are just a couple weeks away from Packers training camp. I've got 13 storylines because we have 13 weekdays until the first day of camp, July 23rd. Wow. So 13 storylines heading into training camp, heading into the preseason. I'm going to talk about the first one a little bit later on. And I do want to play a little crystal ball. We'll probably play a little word crystal ball about 8:05 here this morning. So if you got any good crystal ball questions, throw those on over. I'm open for that too. So, a couple comments about Dame and Turner and some of the Bucks moves and such. We've got one person said team got better by moving on from Lillard. Todd said that he personally liked Lillard. However, it just didn't seem like he meshed with Milwaukee. Lopez replaced with Turner seems like plus as similar three-point shooting and more athletic. Be right, be wrong. Don't be a can of corn. I like they are not afraid to make moves if something isn't working. I think that's the big thing, too, that I appreciate from John Horst and the Bucks. Yes, not every move has worked out. Not every decision has worked out. Signing Eric Bledsoe to a big deal when they did. He was a good player, but then it felt like it wasn't working out. So what do? They trade him. They move on. They bring in Drew Holiday, for crying out loud. That move worked. Now we can argue, did it work trading Drew Holiday to bring in Dame? Did it work? Let me throw this question back at you, Bucks fans. When you think about the Dame tenure, the Damian Lillard tenure with Milwaukee, what's the first word or what's the phrase that comes to your mind? Underwhelming? Didn't hit expectations? What if? What could have been? Injuries? Old? What are some of the words or some of the phrases that you think about or that you're going to think about when you think of these 2 years with, was it 2 years? 2 years of Damian Lillard with the Milwaukee Bucks. There's a bunch of them we could use. There's a lot of them we could use. The ones that I just kind of threw out there, those are the ones that come to my mind. Underwhelming, underachieving, injury plagued, didn't hit expectations, didn't mesh, what could have been. Felt like there was a lot of different things left on the table with this duo. A duo that I think we were so excited to see, and it never clicked. Never clicked. So hit me up with your picks, your words, your phrases, all that good stuff. 1 hour in, we got a couple more to go. We got some news updates, and then let's talk some Brewers. Brew Crew 50-40, 90 games into the season. Got a big series coming up with the Dodgers. Talk about that. Talk about Brandon Woodruff and more coming up after these news updates. Second hour kicking off for right now on this Monday morning of July 7th. Appreciate you making us a part of your start. If you're already up and at it here this morning. Coming up, we'll talk some Brewers. We're going to talk a little green and gold as well. We'll get back to more Bucks talk, but kind of the question I'm throwing out to you Bucks fans, if you're just tuning in right now, is when you think back to the Damian Lillard era, tenure with the Bucks, what's the one word or phrase that maybe kind of comes to your mind, or how will you remember this Dame era? You know what I mean? So let me know. Okay, hit me up with the text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912, 715-830-1912. Let's kick off this hour. We're talking some Brewers. The Brew Crew picking up a series win over the Marlins yesterday, 3-1 win to secure that series win. But it was a pretty big day for other reasons. Brandon Woodruff finally making his debut. Debut isn't the right word. Return. Making his return to the Brewers lineup after not pitching since September of 2023. Go back to September of 2023 when we find out he has this injury before the postseason. It was a big hit. I mean, that was a postseason too that I think, we had some high expectations. Definitely a team that was leaning heavily on their pitching staff with Corbin, with Woodruff, with Peralta and such. Offense had a lot to be desired. But Woodruff was a big part of the team's success. And then before the postseason starts, we find out he's going to be done. And not only just for that, but probably for the entire following season. And it was. But the Brewers still brought him back. They didn't have to. They signed him to a 2-year deal. First year, rehab, getting ready for a potential 2025 return. 2025 rolls around. And sound like, hey, maybe we're going to get him in May. Has an ankle injury in his final tune-up. Then his next final tune-up gets hit in the elbow on a comebacker. So the return is delayed. Finally, on July 6th, Brandon Woodruff returns to the mound for the Brewers. And what does he do? He goes out there, throws 6 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 8 strikeouts, no walks. And he threw 70 pitches. I mean, that's pretty dang efficient for Brandon Woodruff. If it wasn't his first return, he's probably going at least another inning. Tip the cap, man. I mean, what a fantastic day for Brandon Woodruff. For his teammates, for the organization, and for himself, and for his family. A long road to recovery with a couple of roadblocks that weren't his fault. Getting hit by a comebacker, that's not his fault. A lot of people wanted to turn it around against him. Like, dude, just can't stay healthy. He's injury prone. Can't help a guy hitting a comebacker off your elbow over 100 miles per hour for living sakes. But, I mean, if this is the Woody that we're going to get, this was vintage Brandon Woodruff yesterday. If this is the version we're going to get here on out, you look at this pitching rotation now with Peralta, who just got named as an all-star, with Mizorowski, who I think now it's like, okay, he had that game. We knew he was probably going to have a hiccup game, and he did last week. And now I know they're piping it up, him versus Kershaw for Tuesday. But we know the talent he has. Mizorowski's in there. Quintana, another veteran, stable veteran, solid veteran. And if this is the version we're going to get with Brandon Woodruff, that's a heck of a top 4 rotation. And then your 5th spot's either Priester, Patrick, Cortez. Some combo of that or one of those. That to me is a staff that can get you to the postseason and can win some games in the postseason. The biggest question is just, can they continue to pitch at a high level? Peralta, Quintana, Woodruff, Mizorowski. The biggest thing for Mizorowski is going to be, and we're going to keep saying it, And I know fans aren't going to like it, but you know they're going to monitor his inning count. That's going to be something. But back to Woodruff here, just first of all, I think, you go back to when he had that injury. And at that time, there was a lot of talk like, okay, some pitchers can't come back from this. There was unknowns. We talked to Dr. Crow about it. That type of injury, you don't know. You just don't know. It's a long, grueling rehab process. And yes, he was a pro athlete with a lot of resources that a lot of us probably don't have, with the rehab and such. But there was unknowns. Can he be a starter? Is he going to be better in coming out of the bullpen? How is that shoulder going to react to when he starts rehab and starts throwing? It's a great story. It's a great comeback story. And I hope it's not done. And I know he's going to be a free agent and such, but man, it'd be awesome if he could come back to the Brewers again. But a credit to the Brewers, they didn't have to sign him. They could have been like, no, we don't want to take that risk. But they signed him to a 2-year deal so they could get him in, that he can rehab with them for a full year. And essentially, it's a 1-year deal then. And a lot of teams probably wouldn't do what the Brewers did. So, for all the criticism that we do give the ownership, that we do give the team at times for some of their decision making and such, I think you got to credit them for that decision. But it's just a great comeback story for Brandon Woodruff, and hopefully it's something that'll continue, and hopefully he can continue to pitch at this level, because if that's the version we're going to get, if we're going to get vintage Brandon Woodruff again, man, that pitching rotation, then you're going to have plenty of arms to hopefully choose from. There'll probably be some injuries here and there, but right now, I'll take that top 4 of Freddie, of Quintana, Mizorowski, and Brandon Woodruff. I'll take that top 4. But as we get closer to the trade deadline, with just a couple weeks left, I think you look at it and you ask a lot of Brewers fans, all right, what do you want? Probably still more offense. They've got injuries elsewhere. Center field, Garrett Mitchell, shoulder surgery. I know they're talking about that he could still come back before the end of the season, but do you look at bringing in another outfielder? Maybe an outfielder with some power, with a power bat. Rhys Hoskins, going to be on the injured list. Sprained thumb, grade 2. He's going to be out for a while. You look at that, trying to find another first baseman with a bat. I would hope, at least with this team now sitting there at 50 wins, 50-40, 10 games above 500, in the thick of the playoff chase. Right now, the second wildcard team. I would hope that the front office, led by Matt Arnold, is looking at some possible moves, is looking at some potential moves to be making to help bolster this offensive lineup. Where that is anybody's guess right now. And honestly, it'll probably be a move that some Brewers fans, maybe even a lot of Brewers fans, are going to be like, a who? A what? That's it? Why? But we'll see. We'll see if they actually do, in fact, try to bolster this offensive lineup before that deadline. They got a big matchup tonight. They got a big test tonight, going up against the Dodgers. 3-game series. Dodgers coming over to Milwaukee. I call this a benchmark series. When you're 90 games into the season, right before that All-Star break, I look at this series as, and the way it's set up from a pitching standpoint too for both teams, I look at this as a great benchmark series for the Brewers. It's not going to be, this 3 games will tell us everything we need to know about the Brewers. I don't want to paint that type of picture, but I think it's a good benchmark series to see where this team currently is at 90 games into the season. As we approach this All-Star break, as we are just a couple of weeks away from the trade deadline. You've got Peralta going out there tonight. You've got Mizorowski. You've got Quintana. It's a good benchmark series for this Brewers pitching staff going up against the offensive lineup from the Dodgers. If Peralta is the number one guy and he's going up against his lineup, let's see how his stuff does against them. Mizorowski, looking for a bounce back game. Here you go, Miz. You want a bounce back game? You're pitching against the Dodgers. And then Quintana for that third and final game. I look at this. Obviously we want the wins and we want a series win because that would be awesome. But I want to see these three pitchers, how they do against this lineup. How does Peralta go up against the Dodgers lineup? Peralta's a really good pitcher. Maybe not a number one for some top-end teams. And he does, at times tend to give up the long ball or a bat, has that one inning. Can he limit that against a team like the Dodgers, a Dodgers team that could really exploit that? I want to see Freddie Peralta tonight, how he matches up against this ball club. I want to see the bullpen when they're in. How do they go up against this offensive lineup? And then Mizorowski. We'll talk a little bit more about him probably tomorrow. But how does he bounce back? And it's not going to be an easy bounce back. It's not like he's got the Nationals, which are coming into town after that. He's got this Dodgers lineup. How does the Miz go up against them? And then Quintana, just the steady veteran presence of Jose Quintana at the back end. And then you look at it from, the Dodgers pitching staff that's coming in. Yamamoto's getting the start tonight. 8-6, 2.51 ERA, 109 strikeouts. Brewers have nobody in that lineup has gone up against him. A little bit of an unknown. Quite a bit of Dodger hitters have experience going up against Peralta, and they've got some good numbers. Rojas is 308. Edmonds 273 and 22 at-bats. Freeman's 263 and 19 at-bats. We mentioned it's Mizorowski versus Kershaw on Tuesday. They're already piping that matchup. Got some Brewers hitters. Hoskins obviously is not playing in this game, but he actually has the best numbers against Kershaw, 400. 410 at-bats. Contreras actually is 429 and 7 at-bats. Yelich has been very good against him, 25 at-bats and 360. But then, going up against left-handed pitcher Kershaw, who's 4-0 with a 3.43 ERA. And then for the series finale on Wednesday, you've got May going for the Dodgers. I want to see what this Brewers offense does against this pitching staff, does against these guys, especially Yamamoto and Kershaw. I think if you polled, I don't think I'm speaking out of turn, but if you polled Brewers fans, what's the biggest concern? What's the biggest question mark that you have with this team right now? It's got to be the offense. Here you go. How are they going to test against Yamamoto and Kershaw? Some of those guys that fans or the team want more from an offensive side, here's your chance to kind of make a case. Like a Caleb Durbin. Or maybe a Joey Ortiz continuing. Joey Ortiz, by the way. Man. You look at what Grand Slam just a few days ago. I know in his last 7 games, he's kind of come down to earth. But, you look at what he has done. Maybe in the month of June. Has that earned him a little bit more of a leeway? Do the Brewers still look to try to upgrade at shortstop from an offensive perspective? But this is a test for this Brewers offense. Some younger hitters in this lineup too. Let's not kid ourselves. Chirio's still up there and or I shouldn't say up there. Still young. Terang, fairly young. Frelick. Who's going to be that hitter? Or who's going to be that player or players that are going to step up and rise to challenge? We've all played sports at a different various levels, some higher than others. But we always tend to kind of rise up to the challenge or emotionally, mentally. We always try to rise up when we go up against, the big dogs or a team that is perceived as the best of the best or they are just the best of the team. We always have this like inner drive to like, all right, you're maybe a little bit more focused. You're maybe a little bit more like motivated. I want to see this Brewers team have that. Like, I want to be able to watch, listen to these games and be like, oh yeah, you could tell this team is just, they want this. They want to prove to the baseball world that they're a team to be reckoned with, that they're a team, that they're a playoff team. We've all had that inner drive. I would expect nothing less from this Brewers team going up against this Dodgers team. If you can't get motivated for a series like this, if you can't get motivated or pumped up for a game like tonight or tomorrow, then what the heck you doing? This is a benchmark series for the Brewers, and hopefully it's a series that the Brewers could take 2 out of 3. Again, it's not going to be a series that is going to tell us everything we need to know about the Milwaukee Brewers for 2025. But I think it's one of those series that maybe this team can look back on, hopefully August, September, October, and be like, and if they get to the postseason, they got a tough matchup, that they can say, man, we already beat them. We already beat them. We know we can do it. We know we can beat these guys. We know we can beat top teams in Major League Baseball. That's what I want to see from this Brewers squad. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll switch gears up just a little bit. Training camp begins 2 weeks from Wednesday, for crying out loud. So we're going to do a little Packers storyline countdown, training camp storylines, preseason storylines. That's coming up after these quick words. If your vehicle needs some work done, maybe getting ready for some summer vacation road trips, or maybe you just need an oil change, make your appointment today with AJM Automotive in Eau Claire. Whether it's getting an oil change, maybe getting some new tires, or maybe some brakes, whatever the case may be, just give AJM Automotive a call at 715-835-9523. They're honest, they're reliable, and they always get the job done right. Whether it's routine maintenance or maybe something bigger, you can trust AJM Automotive to keep your car running smooth. Located at 1919 Brackett Avenue in Eau Claire. And keep that number too, because they also offer towing services. I know we don't want to ever have to think about maybe getting your vehicle towed, but sometimes it happens. And it's always good to have that number in your back pocket in case it does happen to pop up. So again, that number, 715-835-9523. You believe a couple weeks we got training camp opening up for the Pack? I'll be honest, I really haven't been thinking about football season that much. Been a lot going on with the Brewers, obviously, and Bucks and such. But then you look at the calendar, it's like, oh, July 23rd. July 23rd is when camp opens. I mean, holy moly. It's going to be here. And when we talk about like weekdays, well, it's about 13. So we're going to do a top 13 storyline, Packers storyline heading into training camp, heading into preseason. It could be position battles. It could be certain players, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So no particular ranking where, like, as of right now, maybe when we get closer, we'll have like, okay, this is the number one storyline and such. These are just 13. I'm going to do one each day. 13 storylines heading into training camp and preseason and such. And I think, we gotta start with the trenches, and we're gonna start with the offensive side here when it comes to the trenches. I think this is a storyline to follow when it comes to Packers training camp. Is how is this offensive line going to shape up for the Pack? And you got a couple, I mean, you look at it, you got a couple different storylines to follow. Elton Jenkins moving from left guard, where he has been an all-pro. He's moving to center. Does he get that new contract? I don't know if I want to call it a holdout. Didn't show up to minicamp. Was there at the mandatory ones. Didn't practice it, which isn't a big surprise. But not only the contract situation, how does he transition from a full-time guard to now a full-time center? Did log snaps in at center, so he's not going in, in a complete unknown area. But you're moving one of your best offensive linemen to a new position. How is that transition going to look? How is that going to work? Aaron Banks, new left guard for the Packers, a guy that for a lot of people thought got a bigger contract than what they would have given him or what they expected. Coming over from the 49ers, now the starting left guard for the green and gold. How does he fit? Is he going to play up to that contract? He's kind of an unknown. We haven't seen him. Maybe we've seen him going up against the 49ers all these times over these years, but now suited up with the green and gold. You come in as a high-priced free agent signing, there's going to be a little bit of a spotlight on you, and there's going to be a little bit more pressure on you, especially when the move kind of like pushes Elton Jenkins over center. And I know they lost Myers there, and there was an opening there, and it was just kind of a natural fit there. But a high-priced free agent that for some people thought maybe got a little too big of a contract, there's going to be some pressure on that to live up to that contract. So while we haven't talked a ton about Aaron Banks outside of when he first signed with the Packers, I think there is going to be a spotlight on him. Can he live up to that contract? Can he be a very, very, very good left guard? Can he fill in at the same level that Elton Jenkins did for so many years for the Packers at that left guard position? There is definitely some pressure on Aaron Banks. No question about it. And then you look at Jordan Morgan. Where's Jordan Morgan fit on this offensive line? Is he going to be the left tackle? Is he going to be the right guard? Where is he going to be a starter? First round pick from last year, got banged up, didn't get to see him a whole lot. Where is he going to get an opportunity first? And where is his best position? Is it at that left tackle? Rasheed Walker is entering a contract year. There's been some rumblings and some rumors out there that maybe the Packers are trying to re-sign him. I got to imagine if that's the case, then maybe Jordan Morgan is a right guard, and that's where they view him. Sean Ryan, though, got a chance last year, got an opportunity. I thought played well. Probably earned himself a decent contract because he's going to be a free agent as well. And then Zach Tom. I mean, you talk about another impending free agent. Zach Tom, I think for many fans out there, for many people, they believe Zach Tom is the best offensive lineman on this team right now. He is going to get a huge contract. Granted, it's right tackle, but he's going to get a big contract. He is going to cost a lot of money. I don't know what the Packers' plan is. Are they trying to lock him up before the season? But if Zach Tom goes out there this year and he balls out even more, that price tag is going to go up. It's going to go up. So and these are just the starters. There's storylines surrounding all 5, 6, if you will, the top 6, let's call it top 6 offensive linemen. Rasheed Walker, is he going to be the starting left tackle? And if he is he going to play at a high level where he's going to earn himself a big payday? Left tackles can make big change. How is Elton Jenkins going to transition from full-time guard to center? And are they going to figure out his contract so he's going to be a little bit more happier? Aaron Banks with a big contract coming in. Can he live up to that big contract? Sean Ryan, can he play like he did last year or take his game up a step? Can he potentially beat out Jordan Morgan? And speaking of Jordan Morgan, where's he going to play? Is it left tackle? Is it right guard? Is it a bench? And then, of course, Zach Tom. Are we going to get a deal done for him before the season? Or is he going to go in and go into the season on his last year and potentially make more money? And then you look at the depth from this offensive line group. Anthony Belton, their second-round pick. Anthony Belton is a big dude, 6'6", 330 plus. He is going to be a starter eventually. I don't think you draft him 54th overall in the second round just as a bench player or as a depth piece. Eventually, he is going to be a starter. Could that be at left tackle? That's why I'm a little surprised. I would be a little surprised if the Packers do re-sign Rasheed Walker, because I feel like they got a couple of options to fill in for Walker if he left via free agency. One of them being Belton, the other one potentially being Morgan. So I feel like that would be a surprise to me if they signed Rasheed Walker to a long-term deal. I know there's been some rumors or rumblings out there that could be the case, that they're working on it and such. That would surprise me a little bit. But I don't know how much we're going to see of Belton this year, the rookie, the massive rookie. But he probably will get, fill-in spots. It'll be curious for me, too, to see, do they keep him just at left tackle in training camp? Do they try him out at right tackle? Does he become the swing tackle for this team? Does he get work at multiple positions? That's what I want to see from in training camp. I personally would like to see him working at both tackle spots. Hey, maybe a little bit at guard too, because he is a big dude. But is he going to get that work in at different spots in training camp and in preseason games, or are they going to kind of focus just on one spot for him in his rookie year. I feel like the more you can do, the quicker you're going to be on that field to play. Because right now, you look at the depth of the offensive line for the Packers, you're probably thinking, again, outside of if we call Jordan Morgan the sixth offensive lineman because we don't know if he's going to be a starter yet, Belton's probably the seventh. You're probably going to keep around, let's say, 9 offensive linemen. So you got 2 more spots. Is that Donovan Jennings? Is that Kadeem Telford? Is that Jacob Monk, who was a 5th-round pick last year? Brant Banks. Guys you probably either have not heard about or you don't have a good impression of. Travis Glover. Saw what he did last year in the postseason. Not that great. So you're probably looking at 2 to 3. I would say they've got 7 locks right now on their offensive line. Rashid, Banks, Jenkins, Ryan, Tom, Belton, and Morgan. I'd say there's 7 locks on that offensive line. You're probably looking at 2 to 3 more spots on the active roster. Of those remaining players, who are they going to go to? Maybe it's maybe it's somebody too that's not on this roster yet. Remember last year they brought in a veteran, Andre Dillard. Could that be an option? Possibly. But you're looking at it, I think the competition, there's competition all across the board in the trenches on the offensive line for Green Bay in training camp. And it's, to me, is going to be one of the more interesting position groups to watch in training camp and preseason because you've got different competitions at various levels. You've got a potential competition at left tackle between Walker. I'll throw Belton in there just because why not? And Jordan Morgan. You've got competition at right guard. Throw in Sean Ryan and Jordan Morgan. So you got those battles, but then you're going to have battles for maybe 2 to 3 more depth pieces. Can Jacob Monk take a step this year? Kadeem Telford. Somebody like a Brant Banks. Trey Hill. Travis Glover. John Williams. I know, names that probably you're not too familiar with or probably haven't heard about. But you're looking at competition for that depth because you're one injury away from an offensive lineman, from one injury away from some of these guys getting plugged into that offensive line. And I think if there was one thing that maybe proved into the postseason game against the Eagles is like, okay, we need some depth in case we have an injury go down. Need better depth. So where's that going to come from? Who is it going to come from? And then, of course, the Elton switching over to center and then newcomer Banks coming over. Zach Tom, to me, is probably like the most for sure guy. Like, all right, just go have number 50 line up at right tackle. We're good. It's probably like the one position you don't have to watch in training camp this year. Honestly, you probably think about it. That's probably the one position you don't really have to watch. You're watching left tackle to see if it's going to be Walker or Belton or Morgan. You're watching left guard to see what Aaron Banks can do. You're watching center to see Elton Jenkins move from guard to center. And you're watching right guard to see if it's going to be Sean Ryan or Jordan Morgan. Right tackle, you're good. You don't need to pay attention. Get him some work in training camp. Don't suit him up in the preseason. Zach Tom's good. That's the one position. That's the one player in this group that you probably don't need to watch. But you've got storylines and you've got battles and whatever you want to call it for the rest of these players on this offensive line. And that's why, to me, it's one of the more intriguing groups for this team as we enter training camp in just a couple weeks. How is this offensive line going to shake out? Will the 5 best play, as Matt LaFleur likes to say? The 5 best will play. I get that. I understand that. But I also want not only just the 5 best to play, but I want the 5 best at a position that they can play well. So, like, let's say, for example, let's say Jordan Morgan is a much better, like he's a really good, like he's a top 5 offensive lineman, but say he stinks at right guard, but he's really good at left tackle. Well, then don't just get him in there, even though he's maybe one of the 5 best, but you don't really have a spot for him. I want the 5 best spots at their 5 best guys at their positions in there. It's not like a power ranking system where it's like, okay, the 5, 1 through 5, we'll find holes. I don't want to fit square pegs in a round holes in this thing. Just give me the best offensive line out there for day one. It's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be an interesting battle come camp. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll wrap up the second hour. Send me your I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. We'll be back to wrap up the second hour coming up after these quick words. If you're dealing with a sports injury or joint pain, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine is the place to go. Their expert team specializes in getting you back to your active lifestyle, whether it's physical therapy, surgery, or pain management. With advanced care and personalized treatment plans, they're committed to helping you heal right and fast. For expert orthopedic care that you can trust, visit Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Especially maybe a lot for those weekend warriors, those slow pitch softball tournaments and such. Still going at it. Credit to you guys and gals. But if you're dealing with some pain in that, make your appointments by visiting cvosm.com. Hopefully you all had a fantastic 4th of July weekend this past weekend too, but that doesn't mean the summer is over with. Plenty more opportunities for you to be firing up those backyard barbecues and grills and maybe even going down to a ball game and doing a little tailgating. If that's the case, make sure you are visiting Mike's Star Market on the west side of Eau Claire, trying a bunch of different flavors of their brats, whether it's the Man Cave Light Brat or the dill pickle, cheddar and bacon brats. I mean, they've got so many different options for you to try from that you will be the talk of your backyard barbecue or your tailgate party. So if you're looking for some brats to load up on for maybe some vacations, some camping trips, some tailgate parties, or just to fire up the grills in the backyard, make sure you go visit our good friends at Mike's Star Market on the west side of Eau Claire. All right, let's do a little as we wrap up the second hour. By the way, coming up next hour, we'll kick it off playing a little crystal ball. So we'll do that just past 8:00. We'll get back to some more Brewers and Bucks talk. But if you're just joining in, we spent the first hour talking a little bit about the Bucks and recapping some of the moves from the past week or so. If there was a word or a phrase that when you think back to the Dame era for the Bucks, what is that word or phrase? Just a couple of years he was in Milwaukee. You think about the team's success or maybe lack thereof. What's the word or the phrase or the expression that you would use to define that Dame era? And since it's been just a few days, I haven't had a chance to talk to all of you about the moves that the Bucks made, but you like them, you don't like them, you hate them. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your expert opinion on it. So let me know. Okay. Text me 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctors Bullpen line. Hit me up on Facebook, facebook.com/Kasper Sports, Instagram, Dan Kasper Sports as well. So let's what we got earlier, C-Bomb saying, I'm not saying El Capitano can't take vacation days. I'm just saying it's some BS when you're gone for a whole week. Again, I think you may be the only person saying that, but I appreciate that, C-Bomb. John says, I'm not saying that Cal Raleigh is a better baseball player than Aaron Judge, but I'm just saying that Cal Raleigh should be ahead of Aaron Judge in the MVP voting. The Big Dumper. I love that nickname, too. Brandon and I talked about doing a top 5 of the top 5 best sports nicknames, and Brandon mentioned that would probably be in his top 5, the Big Dumper from Cal Raleigh. So that's a good one. That's a good. I just hope. I hate saying this. I hope the home run derby doesn't screw up his season that he's having. I hope it doesn't. Hopefully we're just making, too much about it. But, I mean, there's so many examples where it's kind of screwed up guys' seasons and swings and that. So I hope that's not the case when it comes to him. But I don't know. We'll see. All right. I'm not saying, and even though we're going to do this right now, if you got some that you still want to chime in, you can still send those for the next hour or so. Easiest way is just hit me up with a text on that. All right. That's the easiest way if you want to chime in on your I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. Okay. I'd love to hear your picks over there. So all right. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. I'm not saying that John Horst is the best general manager in the National Basketball Association. But I'm just saying, I do have to give him a ton of credit for some of the moves that he has made during his time as general manager for the Bucks. Did I say Brewers again? I apologize if I said Brewers. I've been saying Brewers when I've been talking about the Bucks too many times this morning. But, not every move is made, but I got to give him credit for trying. And I hate almost saying giving credit for trying because that almost kind of downplays it a little bit. But I mean, you ask Brewers fans, you probably want your ownership to try more and be more aggressive in moves and signings and such. For the longest time, the Packers were like that. I mean, they were playoff teams, but we were always kind of left like, oh, but if they would just make this move or this signing, that might put them over the edge. I give credit to Horst. Again, some of the moves didn't work, but he's trying, and he's trying for one sole reason, because he has Giannis flipping Antetokounmpo on his roster, and he knows, if I got this guy on my team, I got to do everything, even admit my mistakes and move on from some of my mistakes to surround him with the best talent available. So many times do we see general managers or decision makers double down on some of their decisions and be like, nope, that was my pick, or that was my free agent signing. I'm sticking with him because that was my decision. That was a move I made. It's kind of an ego thing. And I think we've seen examples of Horst kind of acknowledging like, okay, yeah, that didn't work. How do I move on from this? Eric Bledsoe being an example of that. When he signed him to a long-term deal, kind of wasn't working then. Good player, but kind of wasn't working. So what'd they do? He was part of the trade that brought in Drew Holiday. Maybe a move that didn't work for a lot of Bucks fans was now moving on from Drew Holiday and bringing in Damian Lillard. But you can't deny what that John Horst has taken risks and has tried to put a team surrounding Giannis to keep Giannis happy, to keep, the Bucks a championship caliber team competing for championships, trying to surround Giannis with talent. I don't know how the Miles Turner is going to work out, but I appreciate John Horst not sitting there and saying, you know what, Dame's going to be out this year. We don't have a lot of money, barely anything. We're just going to kind of, do some minor stuff and try to run it back, and hopefully we'll be in good position when it comes to the postseason, that we're in the postseason, then we'll get Dame back, and then maybe we can make a run. Nobody envisioned bringing in Miles Turner and then releasing Damian Lillard. Yes, it's going to cost the Bucks a pretty penny for the next few years stretching that contract out. But I at least appreciate from a fan's perspective that he's trying to still build a team for the now. Still trying to build a team that's going to compete for the now. I appreciate that from a fan standpoint. I don't know if it'll work. Who knows if it'll work right now? But I appreciate that he's trying to do something, knowing that he has Giannis on this roster. When I think back to the Dame era, words like underachieving, words or phrases like underachieving, injuries, didn't hit expectations, underwhelming, they kind of pop into my head. But at the same time, too, when Horst made that trade for Dame, it was like, okay. Like, I know, like Drew Holiday, again, I love Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday is one of my favorite players of all time. But given, what was kind of going on with Middleton and injuries, we all had the thought of like, okay, Bucks need another scorer. They need another guy to pair up with Giannis. That if Giannis is out of that lineup, somebody that's a scorer. And Dame was that guy. was like, okay, now Giannis has a true Robin or a true Batman and Batman on his team. It didn't work. The pick and rolls that we were so excited about, that never transitioned. Injuries, whenever they get to the postseason, if Giannis was injured, Dame was out there. Then if Dame was injured, it was just Giannis. It never transpired to what I think everybody envisioned and obviously what everybody had hoped. It didn't. And it stinks and it sucks. If Dame doesn't tear his Achilles, he's still a member of the Bucks. And then I don't know if they bring in a Miles Turner. They probably can't. But I feel like if he doesn't have the torn Achilles, he's back. He's still on the Bucks team. But for all the talk about a gap year and trying to sell Giannis on a gap year approach, I'm glad right now. Sure seems like the Bucks aren't doing that. They're like, screw the gap year. We're going to do this and still try to be competitive. And when you look at the Eastern Conference, Pacers are kind of decimated right now. Tyrese ain't playing. Now you lose Miles Turner. Boston's traded Drew Holiday and Porzingis. Tatum's going to be out a huge chunk of the season, if not the whole season. So there's opportunities here for the Eastern Conference, for the Bucks in the Eastern Conference. Yes, Orlando made moves to try to move up. Cleveland is still there. The Knicks. But are the Bucks a top 4 team right now in the Eastern Conference? Would you put them as a top 4 team? And Atlanta's definitely made some moves too. But would you put the Bucks as a top 4 team? Given all the other moves in the Eastern Conference? Think about that for a little bit and let me know. All right. Quick break. Surveyor says, I'm not saying, but I'm just saying I actually agree with C-Bomb for once. Hey, there's 2 people that are actually cool with me being back. Appreciate that. All right, warms my heart. I got 2 people. All right, 2 in, 1 more to go. We'll be right back. All right, final hour kicking off right now on this Monday morning of July 7th. We appreciate you tuning in. Shout out to Tom from across the pond who was tuning in a little bit earlier on YouTube while he's also on vacay in Germany. So appreciate that from Tom over there across the pond. So kind of jealous. Sending a picture. He's already having a brewski. So lucky guy. But big thanks to everybody else for tuning in, however you're tuning in and wherever you are tuning in this morning. We're going to get back to some more Brewers and Bucks chats coming up in just a little bit. Bucks fans, couple things from you. What comes to your mind when you think about the Dame era, Milwaukee? What kind of comes to your mind, whether it's a word or a phrase, anything like that? Let's kind of gather some of those. Got a few of them already, but I'll give you a little bit more time to chime in with that. Also, do you like the moves that the Bucks have been making for the past few days and such? Last night, bringing back Ryan Rollins now too. So, what do you make of the Bucks off season? Brewers wise, what a day yesterday for the Crew. Not only picking up a series win against the Marlins, not only Freddie Peralta getting announced as the All-Star, but Brandon Woodruff back on the mound. And boy, did he look like vintage Brandon Woodruff out there. Now we have a big series starting with the Dodgers tonight. I call it a benchmark series. I call it a benchmark series for the Brewers. 90 games into this thing. We're approaching 100 games already into the season here. But you got Freddie Peralta on the mound tonight. You got Jacob Mizorowski tomorrow, and then Jose Quintana for the series finale on Wednesday. So we'll talk some Brewers. We kicked off our Packers training camp series 13 weekdays away from the start of training camp. A couple weeks, 2 weeks from Wednesday. So I picked 13 storylines to kind of watch, follow along when we get to training camp and preseason. Last hour, talked a little bit about the offensive line. I think it's one of the more intriguing storylines and one of the more, if not the top position group to watch when we get to training camp and preseason because, I mean, even at starters, 4 of the 5 starters, you're looking at there's like a little bit of a spotlight storyline surrounding them. Even, I mean, 5 out of 5. Zach Tom's looking for a new big deal. But from a playing standpoint, he's good. You're good with him over there. But then it's like, who's left tackle? Can it be Jordan Morgan? Is it going to be Walker? Belton, the second round rookie? Can he make a play to get some playing time or a push to make some playing time? Elton Jenkins moving to center. Is he going to get a new contract? What about this new guy, Banks, who's going to be playing left guard? He got a big contract in free agency. Right guard, is it Sean Ryan? Is it Morgan? And then the depth behind those 6 guys. I think there's 7 locks. Now, do they keep 8, 9, 10 offensive linemen? There's anywhere from 1 to 3 spots available yet. So that's where I'm at with that offensive line group. That's where I'm at. And I think it's one of the more intriguing storylines and position groups to watch once we get to training camp and once we get to some preseason games. All right, let's play a little we did do a little I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. So if you haven't had time to chime in on that yet, you can do so by hitting me up with a text. I'm not saying blank, but I'm just saying blank. All right, fill in those blanks and send those puppies over to me. Let's play a little crystal ball to kick off the third and final hour on this Monday morning. We'll start off with the Brewers. All right. Our crystal ball asks, or our magic 8 ball, whatever we want to call it, asks, will the Brewers make a move for an outfielder rather than an infielder before the trading deadline? I say if I had to pick my crystal ball, my personal crystal ball, if I had to pick what I thought the Brewers would do in terms of priority, and it's between an infielder or an outfielder, I think it's going to be an outfielder. I think it's going to be an outfielder. Garrett Mitchell, shoulder surgery. I know they're talking about potential return before the season's over with. Got Blake Perkins. But I feel like there's going to be there's more potential players available when it comes to outfielders. Now, the Rhys Hoskins injury kind of is like, oh, now does that open the door to maybe another possible move for a first baseman or for an infielder? You're looking at potential third basemen, but there seems to be quite a few teams that want a third baseman. Yankees being one of them. We know the Yankees, they'll spend. Right? So there seems to be that shortstops. I don't know if there's really anybody at this point available. I don't think there's a Willie Adames out there when the Brewers first acquired him from the Tampa Bay Rays. So I feel like there's a better chance that the Brewers could acquire an outfielder than there would be for them to acquire an infielder, whether it was a shortstop, third baseman, or in this case now a first baseman with Rhys Hoskins' injury. So that's not saying that's the number one priority move I would make, but I think when you factor it all in and just playing the odds in this one, I think, yeah, my crystal ball would say that they're most likely would acquire an outfielder before they would acquire a infielder at this point in time. So, all right, crystal ball. Will Jacob Mizorowski tomorrow hits 6 strikeouts against the Dodgers lineup? Ooh. So Mizorowski looking for a bounce back performance. I think we all kind of knew at some point Mizorowski, I mean, he was off to such a great start, rookie of the month and that. I mean, he just looked lights out. He was probably going to have one of those games like he did last week against the Mets. That was probably going to happen. And it happened. It happened, right? But now he's going up again, and you reward Mizorowski. Not only are we looking for a bounce back, hey, you get to pitch against the Dodgers too. So here you go. Bounce back, have a lights out performance against the Dodgers. 6 Ks? I'm going to say no. I don't think he gets 6 Ks. I could see maybe 4 or 5 over there. But I'm going to say he gets under 6 Ks with that lineup. Now, you look at Mizorowski too. I mean, he had 6 Ks against the Twinnies. He had 8 Ks against the Pirates. He had just 2 against the Mets. And then in his debut against the Cardinals, he had 5. So 5, 6, 8, then 2. Yeah, I'm around a 4 or 5. 4 or 5 gets that lineup from the Dodgers. Crystal ball going to the Bucks here now. Will the Bucks make any more moves, bringing in free agents from outside of the organization? So free agents, then meaning free agents that weren't with the Bucks last year. Okay. I mean, when you look at the Bucks' depths now. If you had asked me this yesterday and the days before, I would have said they still need another guard. They still need another point guard. Now they bring back Rollins. So they got Rollins and Kevin Porter Jr. They're not names that are going to like incite a bunch of excitement from a bunch of people. But I feel like they're going to roll with Kevin Porter Jr. and Ryan Rollins. I feel like they're going to roll with Gary Trent Jr., AJ Green. Gary Harris is on there. Prince is you can throw in there too. He's more of a 3. I don't think they do. I'm looking at this. Miles Turner, Jericho Sims, Bobby Portis. Okay. Giannis, Bobby Portis. Okay, let's go. Miles Turner, Bobby Portis, Sims. Giannis, Kyle Kuzma, Prince, Gary Trent Jr., Gary Harris, AJ Green, Kevin Porter Jr., Ryan Rollins. That's about 11. You still got Andre Jackson Jr. on there that probably will sign Thanasis at some point. No, I don't see them doing anymore. I don't. I think this is the bulk of their roster. Because when you look at it, that's what we listed off 11 right there. Turner, Portis, Sims, Giannis, Kuzma, Prince, Gary Trent Jr., AJ Green, Gary Harris, Kevin Porter Jr., and then Ryan Ross. That's 11 right there. And those were guys they all just like re-signed besides Giannis and Kuzma. So, yeah, no, I think this is the roster. I think this is the roster which goes into the next crystal ball question. Are the Bucks a top 4 team in the Eastern Conference as it stands right now, based solely on paper? Because that's all we can do, based solely on paper. I'm going to say yes. I think they're top 4. So top 4 teams last year in the East were Cleveland, Boston, the Knicks, and Indiana. The Bucks were the 5th. I think the Pacers fall out of there because no Miles Turner, no Tyrese Halliburton. I think they fall out of there. You could make a case for Boston falling out of there. I think you really could. I mean, you look at the lineup right now for Boston. Tatum's not going to be in there for a long haul. Derek White is still there. They're bringing in Anthony Simmons. You got Brown. I mean, they're right. They could be there. Atlanta, I like some of the moves they brought in. Orlando did some moves there too. I think as long as Giannis is healthy, Turner, I think Bucks are top 4. I wouldn't say 1 or 2. I'd say they're right on that 4 line. Right on that 4 line. I would say right now, yes, Bucks are a top 4 team in the Eastern Conference based off of these lineups that we see right now. I would get on that because I think you're going to see down years from both the Pacers and the Celtics. I don't know what to make of the Knicks. I don't. You bring in Mike Brown now as your head coach. They got talent to be a top 4. I just don't know if they're going to play up to that. Cleveland, ton of talent again, but are they going to be as good as they were this past year when they won 64 games? I think they could be. I think they're definitely a top 4. I'm just really curious about Orlando and Atlanta. Atlanta was finished as a 9th seed. Orlando was a 7th seed. Pistons, I think, surprised a lot of people last year. Are they going to take a jump? No, I'd put the Bucks there. I'd put the Bucks. Moving over to a Packer. Is Josh Jacobs a top 5 running back in the NFL? We bring this one up because ESPN has started their series of top 10s for certain position groups out there, and they've got the running backs where they polled execs, coaches. ESPN surveyed league executives, coaches, and scouts to help them rank top 10 players at 11 different positions, from quarterback to corner and all positions in between. So, Saquon was number 1. No surprise. Derrick Henry, number 2. Jahmyr Gibbs, number 3. Bijan Robinson, number 4. Christian McCaffrey, number 5. Josh Jacobs comes in at number 6. What they write on here says many people inside the league perked up when the Packers gave Jacobs a $48 million free agency deal in 2024. The move showed that Green Bay, not known for spending big on tailbacks, was all in on bolstering Jordan Love in the offense with a top-shelf back. Jacobs rewarded the faith with 1,300 rushing yards and 15 touchdowns, returning to his 2023 form. Elite balance, strength, vision, feet, and determination with the ball in his hands, a high-ranking NFC personnel executive said. He catches it well, true difference maker, and he plays every week. Availability, I tend to lead toward well-rounded backs that are elite runners and huge threats in the passing game, and Jacobs fits that bill. Jacobs is the lone NFL player to eclipse 1,000 scrimmage yards and 5 touchdowns in each year since 2019. He's one of 4 players in Packers history to produce 1,500 scrimmage yards and 15 rushing scores in a season, joining Aaron Jones, Amon Green, and Jim Taylor. Is he top 5 right now in the league? And if so, who would you take out? Who would you take out? Would you take out Saquon? No. I wouldn't take out Derrick Henry. Jahmyr Gibbs, I mean, I think part of it too is he shares the load, so his numbers could be really explosive. Bijan, I think people are maybe still expecting a little bit more from him, but he's still 23 and he's incredibly talented. He still had over 1,400 rushing yards last year. I think the one person, if I were to take him out, would be McCaffrey. Just it would be from a health standpoint. That's where I would come from. So honestly, I probably would flip flop Jacobs and McCaffrey because when it comes down to it, who do I trust more to be on the field at this point in time in their careers? I would trust Josh Jacobs more than I would with McCaffrey. That's where I'm at. When McCaffrey's healthy and he plays at that high level that we've seen, no question he's a top 5. There's no debate about it. But right now, you're asking me to pick the top 5 running backs heading into the league this upcoming season. I'd put Jacobs. I'd swap out Jacobs and McCaffrey based strictly on availability and health. All right, that's our crystal ball for this morning. We're going to take a quick break. Bucs fans, describe the Dame era in a few words or one word. What would it be? What would it be? All right. We'll hit that up. We'll get back to more Brewers talk. A benchmark series begins tonight. Brewers, Dodgers. We'll hit that up. We are down to single digits. Single digits available for teams for the 5th annual Casper Classic being held Friday, August 1st. Get your two-person team in now by heading to sportstalk1051.com for just $90, not per person, $90 per team. So if you want to do the math, you want to say, buddy, you got to help chip in, it's $45 per person. That includes your meal. That includes some drink tickets. That includes your cart. That includes your round 9 holes at Lake Hallie Golf Course, Friday, August 1st. So down to the single digits. Help me so that we can sell this out for a 5th straight year. 5th straight year. So, again, you can sign up at sportstalk1051.com. A big thanks to our partners this year. If you're interested in helping partner, if you're a sponsor, you get a free team in it too. So you get a team included in your sponsorship. So if you're interested, just let me know. Hit me up. If you want to help support Backyard Dreams, this is our big fundraiser for that. Or if you want to donate a raffle prize, that would be fantastic as well. Just get a hold of me. But a big shout out to Lake Hallie Golf, Park Ridge Distributing, Edward Jones, Financial Advisor, Kelsey Nikolai, Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire, VFW Post 305, Myron Construction, Dodge, and AJM Automotive Services, Hy-Vee, Economy Furniture, Muldoon's Menswear, Chippewa River Industries, Spectrum Industries, Home Oasis, and Service Master. Shout out to the Packers, too, for donating a raffle item, along with Economy Furniture, also donating a raffle item, Chippewa River Industries, Spectrum Industries, donating raffle. Got to throw a shout out to Awards and More. Awards and More. I got to head over there this week. They are donating a custom decanter set. I mean, this thing is sweet. It's a golf design one too. So grab yourself some Victory Scotch for this upcoming football season. Fill it up with your new decanter set. So a big thanks to Awards and More for donating that too. So got to go pick that up this week, and I'll snap some photos and put it up on my Facebook page for everybody to see. But that'd definitely be a cool addition to any man cave collection. No question about it. So, and you know what else would be a cool addition? Winning one of these brand new, bigger and better title belts. Oh yeah. So if you're worried like, I don't know, I don't have the greatest golf game in the world, this is the perfect outing for you. It is the perfect outing for you because every year when we find out what that winning score is, it surprises everybody. Could be, was it Surveyor? Did you have like even last year? I think one year it was 1 over, another year might have been 1 under, or something like that. So that's we're not looking for the ringers. We're just looking to have a good time and having making some kids' dreams come true with Backyard Dreams. So also coming up, it is actually up now because foolish me forgot to upload it before I went on vacay. But there is a new episode of the Man Cave Podcast brought to you by Hy-Vee in Eau Claire that is up. Got here early this morning. I'm like, crap, that never uploaded. Brandon and I, before we went off for a little bit of a break, we did our top 5, not necessarily role players, but kind of role players that don't get a ton of attention or don't get a ton of credit. So we picked our own top 5 favorites, but they couldn't be an all-star. So if they made an all-star game or an all-star team or a Pro Bowl, they weren't eligible. So Brandon and I have our top 5 list. That's up now on a new episode of the Man Cave Podcast brought to you by our good friends from Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. So, Bucs fans, how would you describe the Dame era now that it is over with? No Dame and Giannis pairing. Now that we've moved on from it, how would you describe it? What would be a word? What would be a phrase that you would use to describe it? A few that come to my mind are underwhelming, underachieving. That even one? I don't even know if that's proper English, but you know what I mean. Injuries, injury riddled. Not hitting expectations. What could have been? Type of those. A lot of disappointment ones. That's another one. Disappointing. Didn't work out. Not a good marriage, if you will. It just didn't work out. Nothing really, I don't think, drama related. It just wasn't a good match, it felt like. And maybe we just didn't give it plenty of time. And I think injuries had a lot to do with it. It just never really gelled. It never really gelled. It felt like everybody couldn't get on the same page. And you look at the last couple of years from this Bucks team. And it wasn't just the Dame thing. I mean, you go from Adrian Griffin, first-time head coach. You bring him in, and they were winning a bunch of games, but it just felt off. So they let him go. Then you bring in Doc Rivers, and you kind of just start over. And then even last year, it was like the slow starts, and it's been a weird couple of years. Last year's, like, I would say, a very underwhelming last couple of seasons. And really, when you look at it from a Bucks perspective, since they won the championship in 2021, and you look at their last four years since then, you could probably say underwhelming or disappointing. I mean, they won the finals. The following year, they lost the conference. But then the last 3 years, the Bucks have lost in the first round. They lost in the first round the last 3 years. Underwhelming for a team that features Giannis. Now, Giannis has been part of the problem, though, too, because he's been hurt. He's been injured. Swing and miss is a good one from Chad. I like that one. A big swing and miss. I would say that's an accurate one. Hopefully, the swing now that they just took with Miles Turner and moving on from Dame, hopefully it's one that can connect. But what are some other words? What are some other phrases that would probably all have the same meaning on this one? It didn't work. I think ultimately the proof is there. It's right there. It did not work. Whether you blame injuries, whether it just didn't mesh, or for whatever reasons, age, they were just too old. It just didn't work. Because ultimately, the only way it would have worked, it probably would be, is if they would have won a championship, and they didn't. They didn't win a championship the last couple of years, so it didn't work. You know, when you look at these moves, do you like the moves? 80% of you who voted in our 715 Speaks poll question said you do. That you liked the moves that the Bucks have made so far this offseason, specifically releasing Damian Lillard and acquiring Miles Turner. I'll be honest. That was a little higher than I thought it would be. I thought maybe like 65 would say yes. But 80%, last I checked at least, I think it was as high as 84 when I looked at it earlier this morning. That was like, oh, okay. A little higher than I thought. I thought maybe around 65 because I thought there would be some voters that would kind of criticize just the Dame move overall. Like first acquiring him for Drew Holiday and then, releasing him after 2 years and taking on all that money. I thought there would be some of that stuff out there. So I was pleasantly surprised to see, all right, let's call it on average about 80%. I was surprised. I was really surprised. Now, one hand, sucked telling my 8-year-old because last year he got a Dame jersey for his birthday. Dame fan. Did the Dame time stuff all the time, when he was playing basketball. So as he was riding his bike, called him back in and said, dude, I got good news and I got bad news. What do you want first? Good news is they got Miles Turner. Bad news is his Dame is out. He wasn't happy. To be fair, he also wasn't happy when they acquired Dame for Drew Holiday. So definitely was like I'm like, whoa, they actually did that. Like you saw the Miles Turner thing come first. And I saw a lot of comparisons to this, and it kind of was. It was like when the Packers signed Josh Jacobs, like, whoa, Josh Jacobs and Aaron Jones. It's like, whoa, how'd they get Miles Turner? They don't have any money. Oh, they released Dame. Okay. And they're spreading it out. Okay. But so I was like, when I got Miles Turner, when I saw that on my phone, when I was doing something, I was putting together my kid's new basketball hoop, ironically. And it's like my phone beeped and popped up and it's like, Bucks got Miles Turner. I was like, holy crap, how did they do that? I feel like we've talked about Miles Turner Bucks for the last couple of years. I was like, all right. It was one of the guys I wanted, but it was like, no way they could afford it. And then like a couple minutes later, it's like, Dame's gone. I wasn't mad when I first saw that. Like I wasn't mad. I wasn't upset. I was like, son of a. I was like, I was legit. Whoa. Like they actually did that. I didn't think they would do that because I think everybody, I should say everybody, but I think a lot of people would say that's got to piss off Giannis. Like that's a move that would piss off Giannis. And I know there's been various reports out there whether Giannis knew about it ahead of time or didn't. Depending on which sources, main media people out there that you like or trust more than the other, there's been various reports that Giannis didn't know and he's not happy, or yes, Giannis knew ahead of time. Who knows? Unless we hear from Giannis himself saying it, I don't know. But I have to imagine the Miles Turner one, at least Miles and Giannis talked. Because otherwise, I feel like Miles wouldn't sign with Milwaukee if he at least didn't have some sort of reassurance from Giannis. And I know there's been reports too that Giannis was a part of the recruiting process for Turner, which that wouldn't surprise me. Then I know that, in the same breath, and they're like, but he didn't know it would come at a cost for Dame. I feel like if he was a part of the recruiting process, though, for Turner, he had to have known, at least in some part, that if they were to land him, that it would have to come at a cost from elsewhere on the team. And it wasn't going to be from moving on from just Pat Connaughton. It had to be a big chunk of change from somewhere else. And I think what the move overall tells us with the whole bringing in Turner over Dame, throw out that gap year talk. And I think if you're a Bucks fan, yeah, it may stink because we don't get to see Dame or those Dame jerseys we all have, or, maybe now you're going to donate them or they're going to sit in the back of your closet for who knows how long. Or maybe you switch out the nameplates. So it stinks in that part. But I think if you're a Bucks fan, you look at this and be like, okay, they're going to go into this season still with the mindset to compete for a championship. You may not think they have the talent, enough talent, or the depth to get there, but at least they're swinging. They're trying for it. We're not going to suit up with Dame missing most of this season and got to count all on Giannis and maybe a little bit from Bobby and maybe a little bit from Gary Trent Jr. and hopefully get something from Kyle Kuzma. We're not talking about a gap year anymore. That's not a thing. If they were doing a gap year, they wouldn't be doing this. So I think if you're a Bucks fan, you're at least like, okay, they're still swinging for this year. And honestly, why wouldn't you when you look at the Eastern Conference? Like, why wouldn't you? Sure, it sets you back with some dead money and all that jazz. But as long as they've got 34 suited up in a Bucks uniform and the Greek Freak is still in Milwaukee, they're going to try to swing. And I think if you're a Bucks fan, you at least have to appreciate that. All right, let's take our final break. Then we'll talk some Brewers versus Dodgers. I call it a benchmark series. This is going to be a fun series to watch. Why a benchmark series? We'll explain that. Plus, we got picks. So give me your Brewers picks for the series and for tonight's game. Can the Brewers take 2 out of 3? Can they win 1? Are they going to get swept? What do you got for me? All right, hit me up with a text, 715-830-1912. We'll be back to wrap it up. Starting to wrap up this Monday program. We got Brewers taking on the Dodgers tonight. First pitch, 6:40. Coverage will begin 35 minutes beforehand on your radio dials of 105.1 FM and 790 AM. So, big, I would call it, benchmark series for the Brewers. Benchmark, given we're into the third quarter of this regular season. 90 games into the season for the Brewers. They're sitting in that second wild card spot, a few games behind the Cubs for first place. This is and the way the pitching is set up for both teams on this series, this is, to me, a perfect benchmark type series just to see, all right, where are the Brewers at? Can they compete with a team like the Dodgers? We've seen the Brewers sweep the Phillies. We've seen them go up against the Mets. We've seen them go up against the Cubs. We've seen them go up against the Padres. But when you talk about the National League, the first team that kind of comes out of the mouth is the Dodgers, right? It's the Dodgers, the Dodgers, the Dodgers, the Dodgers, and we get it, right? They spend a lot for their lineups. They got a really good offensive lineup, okay. And that's why I look at this, be like, okay, how do the Brewers match up against this ball club? And can they prove to themselves, can they prove to the rest of the baseball world that, hey, we're a pretty dang good team too? Everybody talks about the Dodgers. We get it. We understand it. But we're a pretty good team too. And I want to focus on like the Dodgers offensive lineup right now, because this to me is like the biggest matchup or the key matchup in this series. The Brewers pitchers of Peralta, Mizorowski, Quintana, and the bullpen going up against the lineup of the Dodgers. Dodgers have the second in all of Major League Baseball, the second best batting average, number one in the National League. In terms of on-base percentage, second in Major League Baseball, number one in National League. In terms of slugging percentage, number one in Major League Baseball. In terms of OPS, number one in Major League Baseball. RBIs, number one in Major League Baseball. Home runs, number one in Major League Baseball. Runs scored, number one in Major League Baseball. Getting an idea here? Yeah. Their offense is really dang good. Okay? But we're throwing out Peralta, we're throwing out Mizorowski, and then Quintana. I want to see this Brewers pitching staff go up against this lineup and see how well they fare against this lineup. That's why I think this is a good benchmark series for this Brewers team. And then I guess on the flip side too, you can also say, okay, how is the Brewers offense going to go up against this Dodgers offense? Can the Brewers offense give their pitching staff enough run support? Can they put up a crooked number, a big number? You know, they've got Yamamoto going tonight for the Dodgers, Kershaw tomorrow. So it'll be a good test for this offense for the Brewers too. But I look at it, the key matchup in this one is, can this Brewers pitching staff stand up to this behemoth of an offensive lineup like the Dodgers? Can they stand up to them and challenge them and not back down? It could be a little David versus Goliath. But I want to see I want to see Peralta, I want to see Mizorowski, and I want to see Quintana go in there and put their team in a position to win. They go in there, they put their team in a position to win, and then it's on the hands of the offense to give them the run support they need. You know, we'll talk a little bit more about the Mizorowski start tomorrow when we get to that. But obviously there's going to be, okay, that's already the game that's getting a ton of attention because of Mizorowski versus Kershaw. Mizorowski's coming off of his worst performance so far this season. Hey, here's your bounce back game. You get the Dodgers. Good. Let's see what the young kid has going up against that lineup. Let's see what the all-star Freddie Peralta now has going up against this lineup. Because if the Brewers do make the postseason, a lot of it is going to be dependent on their arms, their starting pitching staff, and their bullpen. Well, here you go. Got a good benchmark test for this. Let's pick some games. All right. Let's pick some let's pick some baseball games before we get to that Brewers game for tonight. By the way, Twins off day today, but they go up against the Cubs starting tomorrow. So go Twins. All right. Help out your brothers from just across the border, okay? Knock down the Cubbies for us. Okay. Tampa at Detroit. That should be kind of a sneaky, fun, spicy series. I'm actually gonna go Tampa in this game for game 1. I'll go Tampa. Let's do Colorado taking on Boston. I'm gonna ride with Boston. Miami at Cincinnati. I'll go with the Reds. Pittsburgh, Kansas City. I'll go with Kansas City. Toronto. How about those Blue Jays, man? Toronto at the White Sox. I'm going to go Toronto, man. Got to go with the Blue Jays. The top team in the AL East right now. Dominating at home, 32-16, by the way. Winners of 8 in a row, 9-1 in their last 10 games. Cleveland at Houston. I'm going to go Houston. Texas at the Angels. I'm going to go with the Rangers with Jacob deGrom on the mound. We've got the Diamondbacks versus the Padres. I'll go with the Padres. Phillies at the Giants. That's another potential good one, too. I'm going to go with the Phillies in this one. And then the Dodgers. Boy, this is tough. You got Yamamoto up there. You got Freddie Peralta, just named as an all-star. This is an easy, classic heart versus head pick. You know, the Dodgers just got swept by the Astros. Okay. I mean, they just got swept. Losing 18-1, 6-4, 5-1. I'm going to go Dodgers tonight. I think the Dodgers bounce back and they get the W tonight. I hate saying that, but I'm going to play that card. Like, I don't see them losing 4 in a row. And then, you know, coming off of a sweep and now having to go to Milwaukee, I think they win tonight. All right, those are your picks and predicts. Just want a quick update on where the MLB standings are because it's been some movement. I mean, especially in the AL East, you've got Toronto, as we mentioned, the number 1 team. They're up 3 games over both the Yankees and the Tampa Bay Rays. So Toronto flying high right now. Detroit, they're comfortably in the lead in the AL Central. The Twins are in second, but Detroit is the only team now in the American League Central with a winning record. Earlier on in the season, this division looked like it was one of the most competitive divisions in Major League Baseball. Every team had like a winning record besides the White Sox. But the Twins went on that little bit of a lull. Kansas City, they're 43-48, and Cleveland has lost 10 in a row right now, 40-48. So Detroit comfortably in the lead in the AL Central. Houston, they're fairly comfortable too. I mean, they're up 7 over Seattle, but Seattle at least has a winning record too. So National League in the battle for the East between the Phillies and the Mets. The Phillies holding on to a 1.5 game lead over the Mets. Marlins are in third right now, but it seems to be just between those two in the West. Dodgers are up 7 games over both the Padres and the Giants. And then the Central. Is the Central in the American League East the 2 best divisions in baseball right now? Are we at that? Possibly. I'd throw in the West though too, the National League West. But the Cubs up 4 games over the Brewers. The Cardinals are 6.5 back from the Cubs. Then the Reds just 2 games over 500. They're 8 games behind the Cubbies for first place. If we look at it from a playoff standpoint, wild card standings. The Yankees are the top wild card team. Tampa Bay's right there with them as well. Then it's Seattle. So those would be your top 3 wild card teams in the AL. Then it's Boston, Texas, the Angels, and the Twins. Twins are 5 games back from a wild card spot. National League, a little bit tighter. The Mets, the Brewers, the Padres, and the Giants are tied for that. Padres and Giants tied for that final wild card spot. Cardinals are just 1 game out. Reds 2.5 back. Diamondbacks 4.5 back. So maybe starting to see a little bit of separation here as the trade deadline approaches in the next couple of weeks. Couple weeks ago, we said, man, still a lot of teams in contention. A lot of teams still, in a playoff fight, but maybe starting to see a little bit of a separation for some of these teams where maybe some more teams are going to be like, you know what? Maybe we'll be sellers at the trade deadline. More so maybe in the American League. Cleveland's 7 games, man. It's not too insurmountable, but yeah, they're not trending very well right now. Not really. So, but when you look at it, teams that have at least 50 wins or more, Detroit's at 57. Dodgers are at 56. Cubs are at 54. Phillies are at 53. Mets are at 52. Astros are at 55. Toronto's at 52. And the Brewers are at 50. Only, did I count that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, only 8 teams in Major League Baseball right now have 50 or more wins. And 5 of those teams come from the National League. Phillies, Mets, Cubs, Brewers, Dodgers. Only the 3 division leaders in the American League have 50 or more wins. Blue Jays, Detroit, and the Astros. So, Brewers picking up that 50th win yesterday. Will they get 51 tonight? Let's hope. Again, first pitch between Yamamoto and Peralta, 6:40 tonight. Coverage will begin 35 minutes prior on your radio dials, 105.1 FM and 790 AM. All right, hopefully we're talking about a win tomorrow. Also, it is a Toyson Ford Grind My Gears Tuesday. So think about what's been grinding your gears. All right, and then let us know via the text line. All right, hit us up with the text, 715-830-1912 with what is grinding your gears. Hopefully it won't be about the Brewers because hopefully they'll pick up a win tomorrow. And then we get Jacob Mizorowski Day. And then maybe he'll bounce back and pick up that win. And then, you know what? We've got a series win locked up with one more series to go. And then it's an all-star break. And then that's really next week. Next week, I think you're going to hear a lot more trade rumors popping up there with the all-star break. You're going to start to hear a little bit more rumblings, I think. That's when it's really going to kick into gear. So, but think about what's grinding your gears. We'll talk about that. We'll see if the Bucks make any more moves. I just don't know what else they could do. So, and then we'll kick off another Packers storyline as we inch closer and closer to a training camp opening up. DP Danitz are up next. Have yourself a fantastic rest of your Monday. Same place, same time tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Talk to you then.